We're live.
Here we are. All right, we have switch controls.
So bear with me.
Rodman's running the mixer board.
Watch out.
I think for the first time ever.
First time ever.
First time ever live. All right, so we have the next episode coming out right now.
Bam. The 3 knots that we use spearfishing. 3 most common knots.
Yeah, these are 3 knots. I'm going to say I use them every time I go spearfishing. Now,
Yeah,
whether that means I tied them ahead of time or while I'm out on the water,
They're getting
doesn't
used.
matter. One of these knots I tie pretty much every single time I'm out on the water, multiple times. We'll get into that one. That's my favorite knot.
There you go. Before we get into it, thank you to our sponsors, Florida Freedivers. Check them out. Any last minute gear stuff you need, go online, come into the shop. Biggest spearfishing shop in the nation.
There you go. They got all this stuff that we are going through right now. This particular line that we're going to be using, plus any of the other lines and accessories, clips, all that kind of thing for rigging. Or if you don't want to deal with all that stuff, you can come on into the workshop to the Spear Gunsmith in the back, which is me personally, and I can rig up your stuff for you.
Get Eric to personally rig all your stuff.
Tell you what.
That's what I do.
I rig a lot of things.
That's what I do.
I've been doing this for a while. All right. I say that now. I'm probably going to mess up the first knot that we tried.
Nice. It's, you live and die by live TV. We are on the action camera.
All right.
So the hands are live.
Awesome. So we're on action cam. The first knot, and this is probably not only the most popular and most useful knot in spearfishing alone, but the most useful knot probably in all of life ever. It is a standard loop knot, and it is known widely as the Bowline.
The Bowline.
The Bowline.
Depending where you're from.
Depending on where you're from. So if you're in Rodman's neck of the woods, it's Bowline.
No, Bowline.
So it's a fairly simple knot. It does take a little bit of practice to get down. And it does take a little bit of practice once you learn it on its own to tie the loop to actually
tie it around something.
Thank you. Stuttering over that word there. So the first thing we're going to do when we're making, should I actually flip action cam around and tie?
You got it. It looks good, man.
It looks good. All right. Sweet.
Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to do with the Bowline is we're going to take a length of our line. You don't need a ton of line hanging out, but I'm going to leave myself plenty of extra to work with here, depending on the size of the loop that we're trying to make. Now, what I use this knot for the most is tying my shooting line, because I generally shoot Dyneema, onto my spear gun shaft. So whether that be through the back, through the hole in the back of the shaft, or through the tab, either of those things are going to work. I also use it a lot for tying clips on, but I'm going to show you another knot at the next one, actually, the next knot coming up, which is better for tying clips. Anyway, the Bowline is going to be started off by taking a little piece of the section of line here and making yourself a little circle.
A key to that circle is that tag end is on top of the line. So that part that's going off screen is on the bottom.
Yeah.
Within Eric's right hand.
How centered it? This
perfect.
is good. Okay.
Nailed it.
So we're making that loop. We're taking these 2 sections, or this section between our hands. We're crossing over the top just like that.
Perfect.
And I've made myself a nice little circle loop. Now what I'm going to do is hold that loop and take my tag end. I'm going to take the tag end. I'm going to come through the bottom of that circle. And there's a little saying for this that we're going to get to next. Go through that circle. You're going to come out and around the underside of the main part of the line and then back into the circle. And that is all there is to it. So you can see as that tightens up, you get a very particular looking knot where you got a little loop coming around and a little loop going over the top, wraps it off. It's a nice clean knot. And then your tag line is pointing in the same direction as the loop. So if you tighten that up and this guy is pointing in a different direction, namely in the same direction as the main line, you have done it wrong. It's a very easy knot to tie wrong, but once you get it down, you're never going to tie it wrong. So I'm going to show you the last little step here. There is a rhyme that goes along, maybe not a rhyme, a story, let's say, that goes along, a limerick, with tying the Bowline that everybody has to learn. It's kind of a, I guess, a standard bowline learning technique. So you're going to make a rabbit hole. Right? Do you use a rabbit or a squirrel?
Rabbit.
Nice.
Always done rabbit.
I've always done rabbit as well. That's what they teach you in the Boy Scouts.
That's how my pops taught me.
So we've made ourselves our rabbit hole, and the tag end of the line is our rabbit. So now what happens when a rabbit is inside of his hole? Where does he want to go? Out and about. Get some leafy greens. So that rabbit is now going to come out of his hole. What's next to his hole is a nice old tree, which is our main line. So the rabbit comes out of his hole, goes around the tree, finds some leafy greens, and then he's going to go back in the hole. And that's all there is to it.
Bang.
So the rabbit comes out, around the tree, and back in the hole. And that's pretty much how everybody will describe a bowline to you. There's a couple other versions as well that aren't as kid-friendly.
Wow, that was one I liked. I always did log and not a tree, but I actually like tree more because you can go around a tree.
Yeah.
My dad always said around the log. You know, like those. It doesn't.
Whatever it is,
around
man.
the tree is better. No, around the tree is better.
I like the tree. That's what I learned. Okay, so that is the
That
bowline.
Eagle Scout life.
Yeah, and I'll show you what that looks like. Tied onto a shaft here. If I can get this guy in here. So this is a nice little notched Euro shaft out of my little tiny Rob Allen roller here. If you want to see me shooting this gun, you can check out the Xhale Shore Dive Showdown video. It was our first vlog we ever put up, which was pretty fun. So that is what I use for tying my shooting line, which is a nice stout piece of Dyneema here, onto my shafts. So you can see that lays up really nicely. It's a nice compact knot. The bowline is super, super strong. And what I like the most about the bowline, this particular line has been shot and has been under a ton of tension. It's super easy to undo. It takes, no matter how much tension this knot goes under, you can always untie it, which can come in handy sometimes. Now this is melted on the end, so it's not going to come through there, but it gives you the ability to tie that onto the back of your shaft. Next up,
Figure 8.
Rodman's favorite knot.
Bam.
The figure 8 is a pretty standard knot. Now
If I'm tying a clip on or if I'm tying something in a hurry, I really like the the figure 8.
Yeah, it's really fast. It's basically exactly like tying a granny knot, like just a standard little overhand knot like that. However, there's one little extra twist in there, and we're going to show you how to do that right now. So a figure 8 on its own is actually just like a granny knot in that it's a single knot in the middle of the line. Now what happens is I did that little extra twist, so you can see how that makes a nice little number 8 right there. And what that extra twist is instead of just tying a loop and going through it, I'm actually going to come from around the back side of the line first and then go back through the loop. So you're doing that one little extra side there. Now that'll tighten up. It's a good stopper knot, but what we're actually using here is a double figure 8, or also known as a figure 8 with a follow through. And like Rodman was saying, it's really good for tying stuff onto a clip. Now, you can do this if you have the ability to run a clip that's got an opening in it, like a gate clip or something like that. You can basically tie the same exact thing just by doubling the line up and then making a figure 8. Now, what's cool about the figure 8 knot, it is actually the highest tensile strength retention knot that you can use. So every time you tie a knot in a piece of line, it's going to weaken that piece of line a little bit. And this is actually the highest strength retention that you can get. This is what climbers use, mountain climbers, because of that reason alone. Super strong, and just like a bowline, it's really easy to untie no matter how much tension has been put on it. You can, what they call breaking the back of the knot, where you can work it back and forth like that. You get a little bit of leverage on it. So now we can put that straight on a clip. Or if you don't have a gate opening like that, I'll show you how to do that as well.
While you're untying that, the reason why I started really using it was Q Powerline, who makes one of my favorite reel lines. If you ever used Aussie line, you're kind of using Q Powerline. They say the only knot to use in that is a double figure 8. It's a bigger knot, but so I don't use it for everything. But when I can get away with a bigger knot, that's the knot that I'm going to use. That Dyneema jacket can be a little bit slippery sometimes. Not every knot wants to stay put in it. So that double figure 8 does an awesome job.
For sure. And you can use it actually to tie onto your spear gun shaft as well. The only reason I prefer the bowline is it's a little bit smaller, a little bit less drag. So If you have a clip that you can't access through the gate, it's a closed part at the bottom, just like a snap swivel
Yeah,
or a tuna clip, anything like that. All you got to do is thread your line through the clip that you're tying onto, and then just use this as the head of your knot, right? So you're going to do the same exact thing, come around the back side and back up through the loop. Now, once you do that, you're going to kind of want to adjust that knot. You want it to be pretty close. You don't want a huge loop, somewhere about like that, whatever you prefer.
Easy
and there
peasy.
it is. Nothing to it.
Strongest knot you can tie right there.
Boom. All right. Next up, my favorite knot.
Ooh.
This is a knot that I learned. I call it the South African quick release knot. And I use this every time I go spearfishing. Instead of running a snap swivel or whatever other kind of swivel or clip you want to run in between your reel line and your shooting line, I don't use anything. I tie my shooting line straight to my reel line. So my shooting line itself has a loop tied at the end of it with a double figure 8. And then my reel line, what I actually do, this is actually melted already, but I tie a little overhand at the very end of my reel line. This is actually connected to a reel, so I'll show you how it all rigs up in a second. Now I tighten that up as best I can. I'm going to trim the end of that off and go ahead and torch that down so everything's nice and flush. You can push that on there. So now you have a little overhand knot that can't come undone, and I'll show you the reason for having this. So this is what my reel line looks like all the time. I never have to cut my reel line. I never have to undo clips. I don't have to deal with a bulky snap swivel or a tuna clip or anything like that. I just run this guy, and we'll just pretend like this clip is my shooting line, the loop at the end of my shooting line. So I'm actually going to do something. Most people know this as an improved clinch knot or a fisherman's knot. It's a really easy fishing knot that everyone knows who fishes. I wrap a couple times around like that. And then if I was tying an actual fishing knot, I'd go back through the front of the loop and then back through the loop that makes. Now when you tie that, that's going to tighten up and make a nice little knot to your hook or whatever you're using. However, instead of doing that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tag and I'm going to bend it like that, like Beckham. And don't pull that all the way through. You want a little bit of loop hanging out here and the rest of the tag hanging out there. And now when I tighten this, it's going to look like that. And I've got a little bit of loop. And I'm going to actually tuck this up so that that knot can't pull through. This is actually going to hold really well. I've shot really big fish using this knot, and it has not pulled out. A lot of people see me use this, and they're like, man, that thing is going to come straight off of there. There's no way. But I've shot big cobia, all kinds of stuff using this, and I've never had an issue. But what I like about it is when I need to take my shooting line off my reel line, all I got to do is grab this overhand knot in the end, pull that, and everything comes out. Now I can pull my shooting line back through the fish, and then we're all good to go. So I'm going to show you real quick. Oh, I forgot I untied this. All right, we're going to see a bowline in action. If I can remember how to tie one. This is where I was getting into. It's a little bit harder to figure out how to tie a bowline onto something.
That's a great example, though. You did your loop, then you put the tag in through whatever you're tying it around, and then you do the rabbit trick.
Yep, and then I can actually back this around and adjust it to where that melted end is coming right up to it. So there we are, right back where we started. All right, I'm going to go off camera for a second. I'm going to put this shaft back in the gun that it came out of, and I'm going to show you how my reel line connects to my shooting line. Wrap this up a little bit. All right, so here you can see my shooting line running up the gun. Now, I'm not going to do the full line wrap just yet, but I'm going to take this back to the end. Oh, I lied. I have a bowline on this end as well, not a double figure 8. So this orange line is connected to my reel, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. Instead of that clip, I'm going to go through here, twist a couple times, push that loop through, hold it in place, and go ahead and tighten that down. Now I have my quick release done. I'm going to cinch that overhand knot all the way up to the end, so that helps it from pulling out of there. And now I could rig my gun up just like normal. Instead of having a big bulky clip on there. Oh man, we're blowing things up over here. I know I'm off camera. Things are getting wild. Bear with me. I should have pre-adjusted this. Double wrap on a 70 centimeter gun. And a little bit of real tightening action. All right, here we go. So just like that, now where you would normally have your shooting line coming through, your line release and your reel line coming through the front and meeting it, you'd have a big snap swivel right here. I hate that. I think this is way cleaner. So now my reel line is connected directly to my shooting line, and there's no way this is going to come undone. If I want to, pop it off, and we're good to go. So that's that. Those are the 3 knots that we use the most spearfishing. Number 1, the Bowline. Number 2, Rodman's favorite knot.
Double figure 8.
The double figure 8. And number 3 is the South African quick release. I call it the South African quick release because my South African friend taught it to me.
There you go.
I don't know if it's actually the South African quick release, but that's what I call it. So thank you guys for watching this episode. We're back on these cameras.
Boom. Back on. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next time.
We'll see you around.
If you got a better knot that we should know, put it in the comment section.
Yeah, let us know what you tie onto your shaft, or if maybe you use mono and you crimp like a loser.
You can actually crimp the Dyneema.
You can crimp Dyneema. Not a big fan of that either.
It comes out pretty clean.
It's clean.
It cinches up though sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. But thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See ya.